Part 27. After the flash marriage, the character collapsed. Author, Dowby in the World. Chapter 261. Chapter 261, I thought you didn't want us, mother and son 1. She thought that he would be very happy when he knew that she was pregnant and that he was going to be a father. She even thought that he would jump up and down excitedly, just like on TV, hugging her happily in circles. However, the reality is that he ran away without saying a word, leaving no words behind. Can't he accept it? They are both husband and wife, and pregnancy and childbirth are normal developments. Doesn't he want her to get pregnant or their child? Thinking that Tanyuj might not want a child, Jian-Yuman turned pale and held her belly tightly with both hands. She didn't care. If Mr. Tang didn't want the child, she wouldn't abort it. She wanted to give birth to the baby. The baby had been in her belly for 7 weeks, and she couldn't bear to let him go. If Mr. Tang insists on not having a child, she will run with the ball and go to the countryside to give birth to the child and raise it by herself. Thinking of this result, Jian-Yuman's face turned even darker, and she covered her face in sadness. She didn't want this at all. She grew up in a single-parent family. She hadn't been with her father since high school. She didn't want her baby to be without a father since she was a child. Jian-Yuman has been staying next to Tanyuj's car, waiting for him to come back, waiting for someone who is not sure whether he will come back. This wait lasts for a quarter of an hour. Suddenly a tall figure from far away rushed over quickly, and before Jian-Yuman had time to react, he hugged her in. The person holding her body trembled slightly with excitement. The things he brought were thrown aside, his hands let go of her, he held her face instead, and kissed her red lips. Tanyuj was so excited that his voice was out of tune and he shouted happily. "Honey, I love you so much." The sudden change left Jian-Yuman with no time to react. She was still immersed in sadness, staring blankly at the handsome and evil man in front of her. Tanyuj had a big smile on his face, excitement was written from the corners of his eyes to the tips of his eyebrows, his mouth was almost split to the back of his head, and his eyes were almost like slits when he smiled. And before he left, his hair that was neatly combed back was as messy as straw. His hair, which was already quite long, was messed up like a madman. However, his appearance was strong enough, and it was still very pleasing to the eye. It was just that he looked at Jian-Yuman's eyes were as warm as springs. Tanyuj is back. Tanyuj squatted down without warning and took out a pair of cloth shoes with very soft soles from the bag thrown aside. "Wife, lift your feet." Jian-Yuman mechanically raised her feet and looked down at Tanyuj with a confused look on her face. With a smile on his face, Tanyuj took off Jian-Yuman's original shoes and put on the comfortable maternity shoes he bought specially. He helped her put on her shoes, ran to the car, threw their mobile phones into the trunk, and placed a soft cushion on the passenger seat. After being busy for a while, Tanyuj ran into the hospital again, pushed a wheelchair out, and patted the wheelchair with soft cushions with a smile. "Honey, sit down and watch, it must be very comfortable." Jian-Yunan's eyes fell on the wheelchair and pointed at herself stupidly. Shall she sit down?" Tanyuj nodded as if pounding garlic. "That's right. This is your mobility scooter. Are you tired from walking today? When you are, just sit on it and I'll push you around." Jian-Yuman tilted her mouth and burst into tears. This cry frightened Tanyuj. He immediately left his wheelchair and ran over. He raised his hand at a loss and gently wiped her tears. "Wife, what's wrong with you? Why are you crying when you're fine?" End of this chapter. After the flash marriage, the character collapsed. Author, Dowby in the World. Chapter 262. Chapter 262, I thought you didn't want us, mother and son too. Jian-Yuman pointed at her stomach and cried in grievance. "Are you a bastard? Why did you run away suddenly? I thought you didn't want us, mother and son. Woo. Qian Yuman cried so sadly, but at the same time she was very happy that he was back. It's not that he doesn't want them anymore, he just runs to buy things for pregnant women. The baby no longer has to be a child of a single-parent family. Tanyuj was stunned for a moment, burst into laughter, gently held her in his arms, scratched his head and laughed in embarrassment. Honey, I'm sorry. I was actually too excited just now. I knew I was going to be a father, and I was afraid that I would hurt you with my excitement. I was too excited and didn't know how to vent it, so I ran a few streets to find a maternal and child store. Idiot Jian Yuman turned her head and buried her face in his arms, her emotions gradually coming under control. More than 10 minutes later, her mood finally recovered, and she raised her eyes to look at Tanyuj, who was still smiling brightly, smiling like a fool. Jian Yuman pouted and complained. Are you happy to see me cry? Tanyuj's expression changed and he immediately shook his head. No, I'm happy because I'm going to be a dad. When Tanyuj said that he was going to be a dad, the smile on Tanyuj's face couldn't stop. Jian Yuman's eyes fell on his hand. His long and beautiful fingers suddenly had many marks, even some bloodshot. What happened to your hand? Tanyuj smiled awkwardly. I was so excited just now. When I saw a century-old tree, I couldn't help but hammer the tree to vent my anger. Are you an idiot? Jian Yuman laughed and cursed, pointing to the nearby car. The car is right next to me. Even if I'm tired, I don't need to use a wheelchair. People will laugh at me. Tanyuj chuckled and was glanced at by Jian Yuman again, who pointed at the wheelchair angrily and amusedly. Are you exaggerating? I'm just pregnant, not hemiplegic. Tanyuj's expression suddenly became serious. From somewhere, he summoned several books on guidelines for pregnant women, recipes for pregnant women, precautions for pregnant women, and how to take care of pregnant women. You still have the nerve to say it? You're pregnant and you're telling me now. Just now the doctor said you had fetal gas, so why don't you take good care of yourself? The last time Lele ordered you to rest at home, it was because of fetal gas. Why are you so careless? Tanyuj now recalled Chi Lili's reaction during that time, what he said, and the look in his eyes, and finally knew why. At the same time, he was upset that his wife had only told him now. Shouldn't he be the first to know? Jian Yuman proudly raised her chin and complained. You still have the nerve to say it? Not long after I returned home, I found out that I was pregnant. I wanted to tell you as soon as possible, but I couldn't contact anyone. Do you still want to settle accounts with me after autumn? I allowed you to go missing in the first place, so couldn't I tell you later? This is my little punishment for you. Tanyuj confessed repeatedly, and at the same time scolded Secretary Zhang for not doing his job and not conveying her matter to him. It was all Secretary Zhang's fault. Secretary Zhang, who was at the distant Imperial Group Asia headquarters, sneezed heavily. Strange. Is someone thinking about me? Secretary Zhang, a lonely and cold single aristocrat, looked at the documents, touched his nose and muttered to himself. Every move the couple made just now has been noticed by others. The two couples were handsome and eye-catching, especially their excited yelling just now, which had already attracted silent attention. Because she was pregnant, Tanyuj nervously carried Jian Yuman into the car. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. After the flash marriage, the character collapsed. Author, Daobi in the World. Chapter 263. Chapter 263. Come back with me to see your family. 1. Jian Yuman refused. He insisted on hugging her, but he couldn't stop her. Jian Yuman finally experienced the life of the Empress Dowager Cixi. She had been doted on by Tangyuj, but after he found out she was pregnant, he doted on her to the point of giving her a headache. He was driving at a more steady speed, which was a good thing. He didn't occasionally jump out of the car like before. His demeanor is gentler, which is also a good thing, but he doesn't have to enter the elevator from the underground garage, and then go back to the room from the elevator entrance. He uses a princess to carry him back to the room. It wasn't because Chien Yuman repeatedly refused, that the wheelchair was brought back by him. It's a good thing that they are no longer keen on having sex. After repeated warnings from the doctor, the two young couples who were easily out of control finally began to follow the doctor's instructions and try their best not to have sex. Tangyuj had just learned that he was a father, so he was not interested in that stall. He was so happy for several days that he even laughed in his sleep. But Chien Yuman, as a dirty figure, was quite depressed when Tangyuj did nothing but kiss his forehead. At night, after Tangyuj forcibly replenished his body and took a bunch of supplements, the father-to-be and the mother-to-be hugged each other. Wife. Come back with me to see your family in a few days. Huh. Chien Yuman suddenly sat up from the bed and looked at Tangyuj in surprise, then at him and then at herself. Tangyuj sat up with a smile, pulled the blanket aside, and gently put it on her shoulders, worried that she would catch a cold. Chien Yuman felt warm in her heart, but she couldn't help but complain in her heart. Mr. Tang, it's already mid-June, where can I catch a cold? Tangyuj's dark eyes looked tenderly at her flat belly, and stretched out his big palm to gently caress her belly. I'm going to be a father soon, and it's been almost 2 months since we got married. It's time to officially take you home to meet my grandma and the others. I want you to introduce me to everyone as the wife of Tangyuj, the eldest mistress of the Tang family. Chien Yuman frowned slightly, looked into his soft eyes, bit her lower lip gently and hesitated. She also knew that sooner or later she would have to formally meet with the Tang family, but she didn't know why. She had a lot of worries and fears in her heart, and she didn't know where this fear came from. She was always a little afraid of meeting his family, even though she had met them as a tutor. I don't know if other women have the same mentality as her when they meet their parents-in-law for the first time. While Chien Yuman was panicking, a ring slipped onto her ring finger. She looked down at the 1.5-carat ring on her fingertip in surprise. The ring is very simple and exquisite. He knew that she didn't like rings that were too bulky, so he bought a diamond ring with only 1.5 carats. The design of the ring is also simple. There is a 1.5-carat diamond in the middle, surrounded by tiny diamonds in a circular shape. The ring is delicate and sturdy. His hands gently smoothed away the sadness between her brows, held her face, and spoke seriously. Not only do I want to bring you to meet my family, but I also need to prepare for our wedding. We have been married for 2 months, and I still owe you a dream wedding. As long as you agree, I will use just 1 month to create a wedding of the century. A luxurious wedding will make you the happiest woman in the world. He smiled and looked at her expression that gradually softened. At some point, there was a men's ring on his fingertips, which was the same pair as hers. He held up her ringed finger, looked at it, and said with a smile. Just right. His hands were folded on the back of her hands, slightly bent to clasp her fingers, and the rings shone beautifully. There will be an update today, so take your time. I didn't expect that my concubines would easily send me to the 10th place today. My dear concubines, please tell me where to send me this time. He. End of this chapter. After the flash marriage, the character collapsed. Author, Daobi in the World. Chapter 264. Chapter 264. Come back with me to see your family too. His men's ring is even simpler, with a half-centimeter wide platinum ring dotted with 3 tiny diamonds surrounding the ring. On the back of the ring, the Chinese initials of the two people, T and AMP, Q are delicately engraved, indicating the happy marriage of the ring owners. Looking at the wedding rings of the two of them, Jian Yuman had a bright smile on her lips. I like it very much. When did you buy it? Tang Yuj held her in his arms from behind, their fingers still intertwined tightly, and her eyes remained on the ring. She had long wanted the ring that belonged to both of them, but she just didn't ask him for it. The ring has been ordered a long time ago, and I want to find an opportunity for the two of us to wear it. I heard that you were pregnant during the day, and we are about to have a baby. When I heard the good news, the first thing I thought of was to get the ring. It happened to be not far away. Just run over and get it. His magnetic voice kept ringing in her ears. She heard that he had prepared the ring a long time ago, and she heard that he said that he ran 3 blocks to get it because of the little baby. She was very moved. Sugar baby, I will go home with you to meet your family in a few days. Hold her tightly and said softly. Good. But I think about it in a few days. When my sister comes back from the adventure, I will go back with you. Who knows that my sister and I are twins? If you take me back, you might be recognized as Lili, and Lili is not here. There is no explanation. If I don't explain it clearly, I might be misunderstood that I am a woman, trying to get between you two brothers. Okay, wait until Lili comes back. In the days that followed, Tang Yuj, who was about to become a father, would not let Jian Yuman cook. He would scream whenever he saw her holding a knife, for fear that the knife would hurt her. Even planned to cook for his wife himself, but Mr. Tang, who claimed to have an IQ of 210, lost his fame in cooking. Ming Ming saw the recipe as simple and followed it, but there were always minor problems during the process. He even cut his hand with the knife and screamed in pain. He had to kiss his wife to stop the pain. Empress Dowager Jian Yuman pulled Tang Yuj out of the kitchen and wrapped his fingers into pillars before she was satisfied. At the same time, Tang Yuj was prohibited from going to the kitchen for fear that he would burn the kitchen. In the end, after breakfast time, neither of them had eaten, so they had to go out to eat. In just one day, her residence was filled with piles of baby supplies and maternity products, giving Jian Yuman a headache. It was difficult for her to walk, it was all piled up by him, and he was too exaggerated. Are all fathers to be like him? Why isn't Lili like this? Tang Faishan and Lili still get along as before, but they just pay a little attention to the pregnancy. Knowing that he was happy, he couldn't act like this. In the end, Jian Yuman was thrown out of the community along with baby supplies and people. Tang Yuj, the baby is only 7 weeks old, you bought it too early. Tang Yuj was very puzzled by being thrown out, so he had to call to move the things away. Looking at the community where he was thrown out again, he gritted his teeth. You absolutely can't live here anymore. After all, it's also a place for other men. You must move out. The important thing is that he is thrown out at every turn. It's not his home, and he's driven away by the guard. Chi Group headquarters. In the chairman's office, Chairman Chi Chi-woo looked at the mountain of problems with a headache. As the chairman, he no longer needs to handle many things. However, Chi Group has recently encountered huge problems, even a financial crisis. Seeing that the Chi Group he had supported suffered huge losses, no one in the company could handle it, not even him. End of this chapter. After the flash marriage, the character collapsed. Author, Daobi in the World. Chapter 265. Chapter 265 no longer related to Chi Yuking 1. Through understanding from all parties, they have offended people. And it is a terrifying and legendary figure, the world's 6th-ranked emigrant group, who will cause them to suffer billions of losses in a short period of time. If the crisis is not resolved quickly, more property will be lost in the future. No matter how successful their Chi group was in the past, it would be consumed in the long run and even face the possibility of bankruptcy and acquisition. The business empire that has been built up after a lifetime of hard work cannot be destroyed just because you offend someone. He thought about it over and over, but he couldn't figure out where he offended the emigrant group, and why did he offend them to destroy the Chi group. The only possibility of offending me is that I almost molested my tutor at the Tang family, for which I was punished by Mr. Tang. Have he ever thought that because of this incident, he would be resented and even want to destroy the Chi group? But when I think about it carefully, I feel that it is nonsense. It is not easy to destroy the Chi group, but it is not easy to destroy it because of a woman, and it takes a lot of effort to destroy a listed company. No one would believe this if I were to tell it. In this business world where interests outweigh everything else, almost no one is helping the Chi group. Everyone is watching from a distance, and some people who don't like them even take the opportunity to make trouble for them. There was always someone to help, but as a result, the lack of ability also led to disaster. As a result, the Chi group suffered terrible losses in just a few days. It was hard for him to believe that it was because of a woman he had failed to flirt with, so this thought was immediately dismissed from his mind, and he concentrated on trying to find a way to negotiate with the people of the emigrant group. The senior figures of the emigrant group did not see them at all, and the middle-level figures did Tai Chi and pushed them around. Seeing that the damage was getting worse, more than half of his hair turned gray in just 5 days, and he could not find a solution. Just when Chairman Chi was at a loss, watching the stock going from bad to worse, and getting furious in the office, a person appeared in the office. Tang Yuj, who was as handsome as a demon, wore a bright purple suit and walked into Chairman Kai's office elegantly with a document bag in his hand. "Uncle Chi, you're angry again. You get older easily if you get angry often. Look, it's only been a week since I last saw you, and you're already more than 10 years older," Tang Yuj said in a relaxed tone as he walked to the sofa and sat down, minding his own business. "A cup of tea?" Chairman Chi had an ugly expression and waved to the secretary to leave. He walked quickly to Tang Yuj. The man he had not seen a week ago was now a life-saving straw in his eyes. Although he has no real power in the Tang dynasty group, he has the chairman's grandmother. The point is that Grandma Tang's favorite is this precious grandson. Emigrant group ranks 6th in the world, and Tang dynasty group is not bad either, ranking 13th in the world, and there is an upward trend, although the status is not comparable to that of the Dihao group. For a family ranked among the best in the world, it is more than enough to save their Chi group. Even if the Dihao group continues to exert pressure, no matter how powerful it is, it will not be so easy to shake the Tang dynasty group, which is also ranked among the top in the world. The Tang dynasty group has backstage support, and if you want to move them, you have to look at their partners. He had called the Tang family a few days ago, but they ignored him. Unexpectedly, Tang Yuj came to him first. "Why is Yuj free to find Uncle Chi today?" End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. After the flash marriage, the character collapsed. Author, Daobi in the World. Chapter 266. Chapter 266 no longer related to Chi Yuking 2. Tang Yuj pointed to the opposite position, folded his hands on his chest, and faced him with a commanding attitude. His domineering aura was revealed invisibly, especially today he had a purpose. Chairman Chi is also an old vixen. He felt the difference between Tang Yuj and tried his best to sit across from him patiently. Tang Yuj threw out the document bag in his hand, crossed his legs, and pretended to be a second-generation ancestor. "Take it. No need to thank me." Chairman Kai's face was filled with joy. He knew that this was definitely a huge benefit and couldn't wait to open it. When he saw the contents of the contract, his face changed slightly. This contract was a compensation gift that Chairman Tang brought to him to break off his engagement last time. Now I saw him bringing it to him to break off his engagement with Chi Yuking. "I don't want it." Chairman Chi threw the contract directly on the table and turned his head angrily. What is the difference between this and selling your daughter? What's more, he is still a future in-law with the Tang dynasty group. If this crisis had not occurred, he would still have been tempted. But it's different now. If even this life-saving straw is gone, their Qi group will really be destroyed. Chairman Kai's reaction was completely unexpected by Tang Yuge. He even accurately guessed what the other party was going to say, and he knew exactly what the other party was thinking. With a sneer, Tang Yuge stood up from the sofa, and the expression on his face changed dramatically. He was still smiling, but there was an icy coldness in the ridiculousness, which made the man feel cold and terrifying. At this moment, his temperament completely changed. He no longer looked carefree. His expression was cold and ruthless with a sarcastic smile. He looked down at Chairman Qi, looking at his expression as if he was watching a joke. He pointed at the table. The contract on the subject spoke indifferently. You have to accept it even if you don't accept it? Chairman Kai's face darkened, and he wanted to confront him, but was so frightened by his terrifying eyes that he forgot to react for a moment. After more than 40 seconds, Chairman Qi finally reacted and stood up angrily. Tang Yuge, don't think that just because you are the eldest son of the Tang dynasty group, you can come to our Qi group and do whatever you want. Qi group is a big company no matter how you say it. It is said that a skinny camel is bigger than a horse. We can only survive and become a small enterprise. Instead of you taking a so-called benefit and pouring ice water on us when we are down. Tang Yuge smiled coldly. Do you think the Qi group has a choice now? You have no other way out except accepting it. My marriage with Yuking must be dissolved. There is no need to continue it. Even if it is not dissolved, it is in name only and I will not give it to you again. It will bring benefits. I can unilaterally terminate the engagement and it will still bring a huge blow to you. Tang Yuge's words made Chairman Kai's face look even uglier, because he knew he was right. Tang Yuge took out a check from his trouser pocket, shook it and said regretfully. Originally, you readily agreed that I would give you this $1 billion check for charity, but now it seems that it is useless. While he was talking, he tore up the check. Every move he makes is humiliating in the eyes of Chairman Qi, and makes his heart bleed. Although 1 billion is not much compared to their losses, it is like rain for the current Qi group. Coupled with the contract on the table, he can barely support the Qi group with his skills, and even has a chance to come back to life. End of this chapter. After the flash marriage, the character collapsed. Author, Daobi in the World. Chapter 267. Chapter 267 no longer related to Qi Yuking 3. Yuge, please tell me if you have anything to say. Chairman Kai's pride was instantly thrown away, and he picked up the contract on the table with a smile on his face. You and Yuking have been engaged for 11 years. Who doesn't know the friendship between our two families? It's not impossible for your Tang dynasty family to insist on breaking off the engagement. It's just pity that my precious daughter's deep love for you has been wasted. Cancel it. The engagement is really not good for a girl like her. Since you insist on breaking off the engagement, you might as well do this. We accept this contract, and if your Tang dynasty family gives us another 2 billion, I will break off the engagement with you. Tang Yuge looked at Chairman Qi and couldn't help but reveal a sarcastic smile. What a big appetite. It is as if a lion has his mouth wide open, and he can even make such shameless suggestions. He had already made a profit by giving them a piece of land, but he actually asked for another 2 billion. The billion he tore up just now was just a bad check, and it was impossible to cash it. He only took it out to tease him, but he didn't expect it to arouse his greed. Forward side. Although the profit from suppressing them this time is more than 1 billion, he will not give this money to them. Chairman Qi, you are not qualified to negotiate at all. After speaking, he threw out a declaration and pointed at the signature place. Sign. Sign your name, and Qi Yuking and I will no longer have anything to do with each other. Chairman Chi looked ugly and looked at the contract on the table, hesitant. Tanyuj slammed his palm on the table, picked up the land transfer contract on the table, and tore it up in front of Chairman Chi. Chairman Kai's expression was as dark as the bottom of a pot. Seeing the contract he tore up, his heart ached again. The billion check and the land would have belonged to him. Tanyuj threw the scraps of paper on the floor in a cool manner, holding the declaration of dissolution of the engagement in his hand, and sneered. It seems that Chairman Chi can't even tempt you with the land, but the engagement still needs to be terminated. I have some friendship with President Murong of the Emgrand Group. As long as you sign the declaration of dissolution of the marriage, I will treat him with my dignity. Say a few words of kindness and let the Chi Group go. If you don't agree, you may face double retaliation from the Tang Dynasty Group. I only give you a minute to think about it. Tanyuj shook the paper in his hand from time to time, with a cold, arrogant, and evil smile on his lips. The paper in his hand was like a reminder, constantly urging Chairman Chi to make decisions. Then break the engagement. Chairman Chi raised his hand and took the contract from him, signed his name, and officially ended the 11-year engagement between Tanyuj and Chi Yuking. Thank you. Chairman Chi Tanyuj accepted the declaration of dissolution of engagement with a smile, put it away carefully, and left with ease. In the end, he broke off his engagement with Chi Yuking at zero cost, and the Dehao Group made more than 1 billion because of this action. Tanyuj immediately went to Qian Yuman with the declaration, showed off the results, and showed it narcissistically in front of his wife. Honey, this is a thorn in your flesh. My engagement with Yuking is officially terminated. Qian Yuman's eyes lit up, she snatched the statement from his hand, and happily sat on the sofa to read it. The engagement was finally broken off. Their engagement was really a thorn in her side, and Chi Yuking was a thorn in her side. Tanyuj proudly described to Qian Yuman what happened at that time, and his words were vivid and even a bit exaggerated. Qian Yuman just listened to it as a story, and she felt happy while listening. End of this chapter. After the flash marriage, the character collapsed. Author, Daobi in the World. Chapter 268. Chapter 268. Something happened to Chi Lilii. At this time, a call came in, and she answered it with a smile on her face. Hello, Comrade Li? Why are you looking for me suddenly? As the person on the phone spoke, the smile on Qian Yuman's face gradually disappeared, her beautiful peach blossom eyes widened, and she looked ahead absent-mindedly. Wife, what's wrong? What did you say on the phone? Tanyuj looked at her suddenly pale face worriedly. Qian Yuman suddenly stood up from the sofa, hurried into the bedroom, took out her suitcase, and stuffed a few pieces of clothes in it haphazardly. She looked panicked and helpless, turning left and right in confusion, not knowing what to do or what to take. Her mind went blank at the moment and she had lost the most basic thinking ability. There was only one thought in her mind, she had to get there quickly. Tanyuj quickly held her hands. Honey, what happened? Qian Yuman looked at Tanyuj, her eyes quickly turned red, tears hung in her eyes, and she tried hard not to let the tears fall. Something happened to my sister. She went on a wild expedition and the entire expedition team lost contact. The organization staff there called me and said they had lost contact for more than 12 hours. Qian Yuman tried her best not to shed tears. She just lost contact with her sister now, and it was not confirmed that there was an accident. She couldn't cry. What if something really happens when you cry? So she won't let herself shed tears. Tanyuj's face sank, and he immediately held her in his arms, gently stroking her head to comfort her. Calm down, Lelaji has her own destiny, and everything will be fine. If you hurry over now, maybe she will contact the organization in the next hour? Besides, you are pregnant now, and there are too many dangers in the wild. You don't think about yourself, you also have to think about our babies. Qian Yuman shook her head violently and tried to push him away, but her hand was unable to push him away. Her body was shaking because of fear. "No, I have to go. That's my sister, my only sister. I can't let anything happen to her." Jianyuman shook her head quickly, her face became paler and paler, and her body was crumbling. "I still don't know where my mother is, and now something happened to my sister." Tanyu's face darkened and he gave a stern lesson. "If you are healthy and not pregnant, I will go with you to find Lili. But look at your current situation, I am afraid that something will happen to you before you go there. I will immediately arrange for someone to go find her, and you can go there blindly and help too. Not too busy." "But..." Tanyu's expression turned gentle again, and he gently touched her face, which was as pale as snow. "I asked my friend to look for her. He also likes exploring and has excellent search skills. I believe that with him here, Lili can be rescued smoothly." "Your friend?" Jianyuman immediately thought of his elegant and handsome friend Chang Junyi. In her memory, he seemed to be a training agent. Tanyuj once introduced him to her as an agent for 100 people. "You just need to rest at home and take care of yourself. Otherwise, when your sister comes back and sees that you are weak, she will definitely scold you for not taking care of yourself. You don't want her to be found out and she has to coax a big kid like you." Jianyuman was shaken, and her mood gradually stabilized. Knowing that Tanyuj was right, he couldn't help at all in the past. Tanyuj tried his best to persuade Jianyuman to stay at home and wait for the news. There was no way he would let her pass. Her body simply couldn't bear the life in the wild. The past was just an accident. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. After the flash marriage, the character collapsed. Author, Daobi in the World. Chapter 269. Chapter 269, Being Bullied. Tanyuj coaxed and talked for a long time before Jianyuman slowly gave up and went to find Chi Lili herself. When she first learned that Chi Lili had an accident, Jianyuman was so excited that she wanted to go there in person. She slowly calmed down and realized that it was impossible to go there. She could only rush, but it was useless to rush. Now that she had only lost contact temporarily and had not received any bad news, she tried to relax her mind. After adjusting for a whole night, her mood finally calmed down. Tanyuj's friends had already rushed over quickly. They drove a helicopter and led the search team to arrive in less than 4 hours. The next morning, Jianyuman's face became rosy again after a night's rest. After her emotions calmed down, the vague sadness between her brows was still there. She asked for leave yesterday to take Tanyuj to the hospital. She didn't ask for leave today and had to go to class, which was still a morning class. Tanyuj originally refused to let her go to class and even asked her to resign and raise her baby at home, but she flatly refused. She doesn't want to be a rich lady who does nothing and doesn't do something meaningful. Jianyuman refused Tanyuj's pick-up and drop-off, and when she was approaching the school gate, she saw a commotion at the door. There was a group of little girls who blocked a petite girl and scolded her angrily. The person who was blocking the way was none other than squad leader Zhang Chewyun, who had become cute and beautiful through Jianyuman's hands. Since she came to school dressed up cutely yesterday, she immediately attracted the attention of many boys. When everyone knew that she was Zhang Chewyun, everyone's eyes popped out in shock. I didn't expect Zhang Chewyun to be so beautiful after dressing up. Zhang Chewyun is petite, cute, and shy. She is the type that many boys like. She was confessed to by several men that day. Zhang Chewyun, who changed too suddenly and was disliked by many boys, was naturally hated by many female classmates. There were people who disliked her and blocked her way. Zhang Chewyun, you look like a dog when you dress up. Tame number 1 raised her hand and pushed her hard, and the delicate Zhang Chewyun was immediately pushed to the ground. there was a boy next to him. He immediately came to the rescue and scolded them angrily. As a result, he was bombarded by several mouths and ran away in despair. Zhang Chuiyun had already gotten up from the ground. The white stockings on her feet were torn, and the white princess shoes also had a few scratches. Zhang Chuiyun had a low self-esteem since she was a child. Even though she is liked by many boys now, her low self-esteem will not disappear so quickly. She took a step back at a loss. "You, what do you want?" Her voice was trembling as she spoke. Tame number 2 sneered, went up and grabbed the braid on her head, and messed up her hairstyle. Just as she was about to pull Zhang Chuiyun's clothes off, her hand was grabbed by someone else. Tame number 2 took a closer look and saw that it was Luo Shan, who had just become a good person. She immediately spoke unhappily. "Are you going to mind your own business?" Roshan shrugged innocently, looked down at Zhang Chuiyun, and said with a bright smile. "Squad leader, are these causing trouble for you? Don't be afraid, we will support you." "Us?" Zhang Chuiyun looked at teacher Qian who came from behind with doubtful eyes, and her eyes immediately brightened. Qian Yuman crossed her hands on her chest, walked over to Zhang Chuiyun with a serious expression, and reached out to smooth her messy hair. "Being bullied." Qian Yuman's simple words were carrying in Zhang Chuiyun's eyes, but in the eyes of the sisters, they were warnings. Rushing towards 6th place. Beloved concubines. End of this chapter. After the flash marriage, the character collapsed. Author, Daobi in the World. Chapter 270. Chapter 270 Harassment phone calls. Especially Luo Shan, the fighting king, was waving her arms and baring her teeth at them. Thinking of the rumors that Luo Shan couldn't beat Qian Yuman, everyone was already feeling anxious. It turns out that Qian Yuman noticed the situation when he was at the door just now and did not come directly to him. Instead, she calmly thought of a solution. Although she was famous and she was pregnant, what if these little girls were not afraid of her and did not attack her as a teacher? I happened to see Luo Shan who was coming to class, so I directly brought her over to help. The little girls looked ugly and glared at Zhang Chuiyun angrily. They were still hesitating whether to run away and cause trouble for her in the future. Devil teacher Qian touched Zhang Chuiyun's hair and said, "It doesn't matter. The teacher will protect you from now on and won't let others bully you." These words sounded like words of defense to Zhang Chuiyun, but in the eyes of the little sister, it meant that teacher Qian would protect Zhang Chuiyun from now on. Anyone who dared to touch her would be touching teacher Qian and would be punished to a severe beating. The little girls ran away immediately, fearing that if they stayed for a while longer, they would get into trouble. "Thank you, teacher Qian." Zhang Chuiyun's eyes were red and she excitedly grabbed Qian Yuman's hand to thank her. Qian Yuman smiled slightly, looked at Zhang Chuiyun who had returned to her lovely appearance, and then looked at the boys around her who cared about her. "Has our squad leader Zhang become the goddess of many boys now?" Being teased by Qian Yuman, Zhang Chuiyun lowered her head shyly and said coyly, "This is all the result of teacher Qian. She is no longer as ordinary as she used to be. She is no longer treated as nothing when she walks through a place." Roshan on the side heard their conversation, came over, and pulled the pigtails on her head with a look of disgust. "Monitor, I asked you why you suddenly dressed up strangely. It turned out that you were harmed by teacher Qian." Qian Yuman rolled his eyes and grabbed her hair to threaten her. "I think I will take you to the barber shop next time to get your hair done. No woman's hair is as colorful as yours. Every day in class, it shines like a rainbow on everyone." Hearing that her hair was going to be processed, Luo Shan screamed and ran away. She didn't want to dress up like Zhang Chuiyun. She looked so handsome and had a unique temperament. Zhang Chuiyun covered her chest with her hands, her face was red, her eyes were shining, and she told Qian Yuman excitedly, "Teacher, let me tell you, I went to make an appointment with classmate Wang Xinian yesterday, and he has promised to go see a movie with me on the weekend. Qian Yuman looked at Zhang Chuiyun in surprise. So fast? Zhang Chuiyun nodded heavily. Because a movie he is starring in is about to be released, I plucked up the courage to talk to him yesterday. He asked me if I wanted to go see a movie together over the weekend, and I immediately agreed to him. Speaking of this, Zhang Chuiyun's face turned even redder, with happiness and excitement written all over her face. Qian Yuman clenched her fists to cheer her up and encourage her rapid development. Get out of class was over at noon. Qian Yuman was about to go home after her classes, but she received a call from a stranger. Brothers and sisters, my lovely, beautiful and charming sister, what are you doing? Do you have time to talk? You have to talk to me even if you don't have time, because I want to tell you a good news, a very good news for you. On the other end of the phone a man said a bunch of incomprehensible words as soon as he opened his mouth. Qian Yuman failed to interrupt him several times and hung up the phone directly. She looked at the screen of her mobile phone and saw that it was a harassing call. End of this chapter.